everybody, welcome to another review. Today I'm going to be reviewing an audiobook that I listened to recently from my library, and that is Ready Player One by Ernest Cline. Fun fact of awesome, the narrator was Will Wheaton. What? Seriously, you couldn't have gotten a better narrator for this book. It'd be pitch perfect. Ready Player One is essentially a geek's wet dream of a novel involving so many classic 70s, 80s video games, movies, music, just cultural references that it's insane. I didn't even live in the 70s and 80s, and even I know how cool it is. I'm just saying. Essentially, Ready Player One is the story of a teenager by the name of Wade, and he is a major player of this massive online multi-dimensional virtual reality game known as the OASIS. It's essentially a digital world, and obviously this leads to one of the novel's biggest sort of things that it focuses on, and a big theme discussion, the idea of reality versus virtual reality, with actually questions being addressed of which is better, which is more fulfilling, and that ends up sort of becoming the big core of the novel. Back to the plot, the guy who created the OASIS has died, and before he dies reads out his will and says, I have left a bunch of Easter eggs. For those of you who don't know what Easter eggs are, they are essentially little like kind of fun extras that have been thrown in by the game maker. He says, I've thrown in Easter eggs and clues and challenges, and the first person who finds all the Easter eggs, solves the clues, beats the challenges, wins my entire multi-billion-dollar fortune. Basically, it's a Willy Wonka for adults. And that's actually something I really liked when I heard that. My first thought when I heard that was, oh my god, it's like technological Willy Wonka and his chocolate factory. And that is essentially kind of what it is, but it's done so well. What follows is a really fun story of Wade actually beginning the quest to discover all these Easter eggs. What's really cool about this is that it takes time. And Wade, as our narrator, makes a point of saying that the time period from when the game maker, the now dead game maker, made this announcement and Wade, sort of almost by dumb luck and by accident, discovered the first Easter egg and the first gate and clue happened, it took 5 years for that to happen. 5 years! And you have this similar sense of progression of time. It takes time for them to do all these things, and I really like that. It wasn't something that was taking place in like 24 hours. It's not a Greek tragedy. There's that, and then also Wade is smart. He's very smart. Not only is he very intelligent, but he's an amazing tactician and a strategist. And it makes sense because he's a huge gamer. And I find that people who are gamers are these amazing tacticians and strategists and logicians. And so I loved you had that aspect. I also love that you have some pretty kick-ass female characters. You have one by the name of Artemis and another one I can't really go into because of spoilers, because spoilers! Ah! I never should have brought it up. You have some antagonists and they work for this big kind of faceless corporation, but you can, and actually the antagonist, he's dangerous and he's really good. And I'm gonna say, just like this whole story, I was listening to it there, by the time I got to the end, I was in the last like chapter, I was on the edge of my seat listening to this, like, nobody talk to me. I'm finishing this book, it's getting so good. It's amazing. Sort of to continue with that, what I think is really phenomenal about this book is how relevant it is to our current age. It deals with things such as reality versus virtual reality, and one of the biggest questions and themes that the book strives to answer is really which one is better, which one is more fulfilling. And when we're in a world where so many people are constantly online and so much of our life is on the net, you really see the effect that has on people. And because most of our protagonists are people who say they're not comfortable when they're offline, they're not comfortable in the real world. They feel so much better online, and you see both the pros and the cons of that. I think that's so cool. Also, as I said, this is basically like a geek's wet dream. Now, I myself am not a really huge gamer, so there was a lot of that stuff involving heavy gaming that I knew nothing about, and I kind of had to look up a little, but honestly, I would rather look it up and still really be invested than just sort of bypass it and say I'm not interested, because that's not a good sign if I don't care. But yes, Ready Player One, it was such a fun book. It was really just a great story, and I was so interested by its sort of like adult Willy Wonka plot, and oh my goodness, it was just so great. I highly recommend the audiobook, again, because it's read by Will Wheaton, and I don't think he could have gotten anyone better. Oh my goodness, I couldn't stop listening to it. But that's all from me for now, you guys, so until next time, cheers.